The United States has officially removed Sudan from its state sponsors of terrorists. President Donald Trump gave the Congress the statutory 45-day notice of this move in October as part of a deal that involved Sudan paying $335 million to U.S. victims of terror attacks. At the same time, Sudan agreed to normalize relations with Israel. The U.S. put Sudan on the list in 1993 after it was used as a base for al-Qaeda. Its removal should help with vital economic support measures, but the country was put on the U.S. list after the first attack on the World Trade Center in New York in 1993, when Sudan hosted a number of Islamist militant groups, as well as al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden. The designation has meant that the U.S. stopped Sudan from getting debt relief and prevented the International Monetary Fund and other global institutions from lending to the country. Now, to discuss the importance of this story, we're now joined by Dr. Abdul Karim Al-Goni from the Africa Diaspora Forum. Dr. Al-Goni, thanks very much indeed for joining us and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for having me.
All right, so how significant is this development for Sudan?
No, this is actually a very significant development for Sudan. You know, during the 30 years of al-Bashir's rule, we were under these sanctions, and you can't even send $100 to your family in Sudan directly. And since the revolution in 2018, there were a lot of good development that are happening in Sudan. First, the terrorists are no longer given any sanctuary in Sudan. All of them ran away from the country. And a number of development has happened. As rightfully said by you, is that we have to pay for the wrongs of the previous regime. So we had to pay more than $300 million for some of the bombings that Sudan was accused of being party to. So now, as we are free and I can send money to my family in Sudan, it is a significant development for us. We are now part of the international business community.
The citizens, though, might not be so happy that so much money is being paid, literally, for something that they had nothing to do with.
Yes, actually, there was a lot of discussions on the media, especially the social media, with a lot of some of those ideas. But we said it is better we pay the 300,000 and go out of this list so that we can get another 30 billion. So economic-wise, it was better for us to pay, although we are not party to the crime. Sometimes you see a big brother, when big brother dictates something, we don't have another choice.
I suppose the expectations must be high now for this transitional authority to start getting things back on track as quickly as possible.
Yes, that is true. And actually, the Prime Minister, Dr. Abdullah Hamdok, has done a lot. Actually, there was a few 2 months back. There was a conference in Berlin to try and get some funds to Sudan. And last week we had this conference in France. And next month we are expecting to have another conference in the United States. All of them are preparing the ground, telling the businessmen, telling the debtors of Sudan that now Sudan can use its huge resources and there are no locks on the gates for finances to and out of Sudan. So please, you can come now and do business with Sudan as usual.
Do you think, though, that there might have been quite a price to pay, and I'm looking to diplomatic relations with Israel, that Sudan finds itself in now?
You see, we have been paying prices for the last 30 years. The previous government was exploited a lot to give names and files of who are suspected of being terrorists. Sudan, al-Bashir was told he will be uh, allowed not to go to the Hague International Criminal Court if he allowed South Sudan to secede. He allowed it to secede, and he got nothing. But at least this actually the Sudanese lost trust in the Americans that the Americans will keep any promise. But at least this time, after the revolution, they kept some of the promises, although at a high price. We had to pay for those promises. We paid money. We have to normalize relations with Israel, although it's not final yet. They are waiting for the parliament, the expected parliament, to give its verdict on this. But at least the government has given all the assurances. I have met with the Israelis on a number of occasions, both security and financial, and things are moving forward. To be very frank with you, we thought we pay the price, but actually the price is worth it.
Given what's played out in Israel and Gaza in the past nearly 2 weeks now, does that idea of diplomatic relations become a bit more challenging as it gets discussed by the authorities?
No, I don't think it will be challenging, because you see, all the world is agreeing on a two-state solution for the problem of Palestine. And the government said, although we are we are working on normalizing relations with Israel. We are like Saudi Arabia, we are like UAE, we are like Qatar, we are like Egypt, we are like Jordan, we are like Morocco, we are like Tunisia, we are like Mauritania. Those are all Arab countries who have relations, direct relations with Israel, and they are still insisting on the two-state solution. So we will push for that, and we hope that after what has happened in the last 10 days, this will be something that Israel will be put in a corner to accept. It has no other alternative.
All right. It has come at a time when South Africa recently downgraded its diplomatic status with Israel. So there seems to be a change in sentiment in many countries around the world about Israel and the way that it's handling Palestine, and yet these Arab countries that you mentioned are increasing their relationship with Israel. Is that not going against the tide?
It is going against the tide, and actually every human rights activist in the world and all people who are loving of our President Mandela are appreciating the stance of South Africa, and this is actually giving hope to all those countries to downgrade those relations. Whenever we speak about a country that is doing this, we mention South Africa, and we are very proud of that. We have to stand by human rights, and we have to stand against the abuses of the Israelis of the Palestinian rights. Everyone will stand by that, and we are taking cognizance of the South African stance, not only we in the Arab countries, but also all Muslim countries and all human rights loving people. They are taking a stance of this and thanking South Africa for this stance, because it gives hope that a solution will be found for the Palestinian problem.
All right. Professor Dr. El-Ghani, thank you very, very much indeed for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us. And let's hope that this, yes, brings a new chapter and a new order for the people of Sudan.
And actually, I wanted to close by saying, since Sudan is now open for business, we are looking for a high-level political and business delegation to go to Sudan and be part of the development that are happening. We needed a South-South relations. We don't want the Sudanese market to be taken up by the North and by America. We wanted to encourage South Africans to go to Sudan, and we look forward to that.
All right. Thank you very, very much indeed, and we wish you the best going forward. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, that was Dr. Abdul Karim Al Ghoni speaking to us about this development for Sudan, where they've been taken off the list of terror countries, sponsors of terror, and that's given them an opportunity to receive all kinds of funding now going forward. And he's from the Africa Diaspora Forum.